just wanna dive inside your lonesome.
Welcome to Conscious Matters. It's a safe space where we chat about how living consciously matters to our well-being, to the one of our surroundings and loved ones, as well as to the earth and humanity as a whole. Join me, Melissa DeBerry, for inspiring interviews with some of the most beautiful souls out there, individuals who are helping others to reach their highest selves and who bring light into this world. In every episode, we talk about conscious matters such as self-love, awareness, personal development, the power of yoga and meditation, self-medicine, the rise of holistic practices, and much more. We expand on our experiences, share tools that help live in peace, harmony, and alignment on a daily basis, and discuss about what we've learned along our healing journey. Get your mind, body, and soul ready for a ride in consciousness. Namaste, listeners. No matter what ethnicity you are, what religion you practice, whether or not you are carnivore or vegan, Ayurveda can work for you and help you live a healthier and happier life. I've recently been asked several times what got me to make a podcast. In all honesty, at first, I've been struggling giving air quote rational answer since launching this podcast back in December 2019. It was truly about me following my intuition and acting on my gut feeling. My intention with this podcast, Conscious Matters, has always been to deeply grasp the abstract concept of consciousness and to share with people a practical approach of consciousness. In other words, the blend of mindfulness and awareness and how to apply it to the everyday life. And to hopefully reach someone somewhere who doesn't necessarily have access to conscious living extensive knowledge nor tools so they can live a better and healthier life too. Spreading awareness to make the world a better place, one individual at a time. I don't know why, but humanity betterment is very important to me. So I guess that's like part of the motivation too. It's also a way for me to support and uplift entrepreneurs in the wellness space by having them on to share their own stories and expertise. So if you wondered, that's my answer. But yeah, it can evolve too. With that in mind, let's try something new today. Usually I talk about practices that I've been incorporating in my life for a while. Today is going to be a little bit different. Um, I've heard about Ayurveda for years, initially in the green beauty industry while I was working as a brand strategist for an innovative, eco-conscious vegan beauty brand. So it was more Ayurveda in beauty products. And a few years later, I heard about Ayurveda again in spa environments and massages and all. But recently, I've learned that a huge chunk of Ayurveda is actually related to food. So I was like, that's so interesting because I've been following vegetarian diet for almost 3 years now. I mean, it's closer to a vegan diet at this point, but that's a whole other conversation. Anywho, I'm digressing. So let's go back to the topic. I know that food is actually medicine. What we put in our bodies can either harm us or heal us. That's just a fact. Despite eating vegetarian, I have felt like I was not getting all of the benefits of this diet. I've still been suffering from a very sensitive stomach and most probably unknown intolerances to some foods. So, yeah, that's not a joy. That's not funny. But as I like experimenting with different things, I felt like it was time for me to give Ayurveda a try from a food standpoint. So that's what I'm doing. Since the beginning of the year, I've been incorporating a few Ayurveda practices here and there, like easing my stomach before each meal with ginger and warm beverages, taking some Trifali tablets. They're actually a specific mix of spices to ease digestion. And oh my God, it changed everything. Such a relief. This is crazy. This is insane. Ginger is a stomach savior, y'all. Why didn't I know about that? Nevertheless, the more I was diving deep into Ayurveda medicine, the more I discovered that this ancient traditional medicine is way beyond food, spices, and massage oils. It's a whole healing concept that blends various healing practices to reach one and only goal, which is to align your mind, body, and soul. I find that so incredibly fascinating. Like having this one single system that covers the wellness of your entire being, physical, mental, and energetical, if that's even a word. So, the main purpose of Ayurveda is preventing diseases instead of curing them. Literally mind blown. Like, we don't have to wait to be sick to take care of our bodies and to actually prevent these diseases from happening. To me, it's so logical, and I don't understand why our system is not working like that right now. But once again, that's a whole other combo. But I'm actually going to read you a fantastic definition of Ayurveda before getting further into it. It goes like that. Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurveda for short, is one of the world's oldest holistic whole body healing system. It was developed more than 5,000 years ago in India. It's based on the belief that health and wellness depend on a delicate balance between the mind, body, and spirit. Its main goal is to promote good health, not fight disease, but treatments may be geared towards specific health problems. Everything in the universe, dead or alive, is connected. If your mind, body, and spirit are in harmony with the universe, you have good health. When something disrupts this balance, you get sick. Among the things that can upset this balance are genetics or birth defects, injuries, climate and seasonal change, age, and your emotions. Wow. If you're not sold on that, I don't know what will. No, but it's true. I'm serious. But at the same time, I'm just kidding because you do you. But yeah, that's to me is mind blowing. But let's gain some more knowledge about this amazing holistic medicine. In all honesty, I'm still learning about Ayurveda. I'm far from being able to educate anybody about it, but I just wanted to have you join along my discovery process through this podcast. Ayurveda medicine is so many things in one that it was a bit hard structuring all of the questions that I have because I got many. I got so many. It's beyond ridiculous. But since Ayurveda is all about aligning our mind, body, and soul, I'm going to follow this pattern and make a three-part series with three different Ayurveda experts. We'll start with the body, follow up with the mind, and wrap everything up with the soul, aligning the body with the help of Ayurveda medicine. For this episode today, to talk about that, I invited the woman who's doing it all, Dr. Sheetal Ajmani. Not only she's a pediatric physician, she's also a best-selling author, Ayurveda lifestyle consultant, and yoga instructor. She's also the founder of Radiant Living, a wellness business where she helps strong, successful women get unstuck and live radiantly again. I'm so happy to have her on today. So let's dive in. But don't forget to stay tuned for part two, aligning your mind with Ayurveda, and part three, aligning your soul with Ayurveda. But right now, let's focus on the body. Listen up to this jam. Namaste, listeners. Hi, Shito.
Hi, Melissa. How are you today?
I'm good. Are you ready to dive into Ayurveda today with me?
I am. I'm always ready to chat about Ayurveda, and it's such an honor to be here with you chatting about it on Conscious Matters.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you on and thank you for your time. So, first question, the obvious one from my understanding, Ayurveda is so much more than a healthy diet. It is so broad and complex from nutrition to therapeutic treatment, energy healing, meditation, yoga, and so many other things. So, I actually have two questions in one. First, what is Ayurvedic medicine? The actual difference with Western medicine? And is it a holistic medicine or way of life?
Great questions. So, Ayurveda, it literally translates to, so it's a Sanskrit word from India that literally translates into the study or the science of life. Ayur means life. Veda is the study or science of. So it translates into the study or science of life itself. And it is the ancient medical system of India that traces back over 5,000 years ago. It actually traces back to the ancient texts of the Vedas, where all of this wisdom was passed down by oral tradition for thousands and thousands of years before it was written into text. And it is different than Western medicine in that it does take a very holistic approach. And I would say it is a holistic approach and a way of life. I know you asked if it's one or the other. I would say it is actually both.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Western medicine, we look at organ systems, right? You'll see a kidney specialist, a heart specialist, a neurologist. And so we look at different organ systems. In Ayurveda, we really talk about it all being connected and all influencing each other.
That was a beautiful definition. Thank you. And now I'm curious about, I know we talked about it beforehand in one of our other conversation, which was not recorded. But I love how you got into your Ayurvedic journey, and if you can share a little bit about that with us.
Sure. So I actually first heard about Ayurveda my first year of medical school. I was, we were in that first semester learning how to take vital signs. So how to check blood pressure, a heart rate, or respiratory rate. And I was so excited. I was so early on in my career in medicine. I was so excited. I would call my mom often. We're very close. And I would tell her about what we're learning. And so I told her about how we were learning to check the pulse. And she mentioned to me, did you know that there are certain types of doctors in India who just by checking your pulse can tell exactly what's going on in different organ systems in your body. They can actually diagnose what's going on in your body just by checking your pulse. And here I was learning how to check pulse to check for heart rate specifically. That's the only component of the pulse that we were looking at. And so I was blown away. I said, how can you tell that much just from your pulse? And so that was the first I had ever heard of Ayurveda. And it piqued my interest and the seed was planted. And around the same time, I also started taking yoga classes at the local gym. That was the first time, my first experience of that sort of blissful state of knowing that there is a part of me that is a witness to my experience, that there is a witnessing self. And, during that Shavasana, the final relaxation pose, I think everyone's favorite pose in yoga. And so I had that going alongside as well. And so I knew that from my experiences in yoga, from the seed that was planted in Ayurveda, I knew that I wanted to dive deeper into these concepts, but that I was obviously very, my life was already very full with my studies of Western medicine. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that I wanted to, upon the completion of my medical school and residency training, at some point, I knew I wanted to get certified in both yoga and Ayurveda and dive deeper into these practices and find a way to also share those practices with others. Because even that early on, I always knew that there was actually a place for both, a place for Western allopathic healing modalities, as well as a place for Eastern modalities. And coming from a background from the East, my family is of Indian origin. I kind of had those seeds already naturally planted within me, and that interest and that faith in these practices as well.
Yeah. And just quick question, because you mentioned your heritage. You never heard about Ayurveda in your own family unit?
It's really funny. No, I hadn't until my mom told me that first year of medical school. But having now studied Ayurveda and learned so much about Ayurveda, I realized looking back that there are so many concepts in Ayurveda that were just naturally in the way I was brought up and naturally in the diet. So it's something, in India, even in many families, it's just, these are the spices that we use in our diet, in our cooking. These are certain practices that is just naturally within the culture and
Yeah.
growing up. And so it's not often called or described as Ayurveda, but it's just part of, like, you're one of your first, like your first question, it's part of the way of life,
Of
right?
life. Yeah.
And then there is obviously diving even deeper to that of going to Ayurvedic treatment centers, going for these intense cleanses, right? And that's another piece of it. But so much of Ayurveda and the way I use Ayurveda in my own life and in working with clients is very much as a way of life, of
Hmm.
bringing it into your daily living.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because sometimes we want to label everything and categorize every single action or thought that we have. And just when it's blended into the culture, it's just something that we do and it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
so now that we know what is Ayurveda, a little bit about how you got into it, I want to talk about the doshas. Those who practice Ayurveda believe every person is made of five basic elements found in the universe: space, air, fire, water, and earth. Could you tell us more about the three human body life forces that are called doshas? And also, how does anyone inherit any of it or this unique mix of these three doshas? How
Mhm.
does it work? Like, in a nutshell, if you can do a quick dosha 101,
Sure,
that would be
sure.
perfect.
So dosha 101. So as you mentioned, in Ayurveda, we believe that everything that exists within nature, as well as ourselves, is composed of five elements. And we believe that we as individuals are simply a microcosm of the macrocosm, which is the universe. So that everything that exists out in nature also exists within yourself, within your body, your mind, and your spirit. And all of that is composed of these five elements, as you mentioned: space or ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And these five elements combined in different proportions is what creates these doshas, as you described. These doshas are energy. They are specifically forces of energy that easily go out of balance. That's really the definition of dosha. It's an energy that goes out of balance. These energies are comprised of these five elements. So there's the vata dosha. The vata dosha is comprised of air and ether, or air and space. There's the pitta dosha, which is comprised of fire and water. And there is the kapha dosha, which is comprised of earth and water. Okay.
Okay.
So although these are, I defined doshas as forces that go out of balance, these, another way to describe it would also be kind of your body mind constitution. So when we talk about your body mind constitution, we're talking about these doshas specifically.
Hmm.
And so these doshas actually exist within everything. So there is a specific energy or dosha, vata, pitta, kapha, that corresponds to the season, that corresponds to specific times of day, that also contribute to your own makeup.
Hmm.
And then there is, you asked, how do you inherit it? So there's, I'm going to talk about two different words here. There's prakriti and vikruti. Prakriti is the dosha, or the body mind constitution, in terms of how I'm using it here, that you were born with.
Mhm.
And then there is another word, which I'll define for you, which is vikruti, which means your current state of balance, your current doshic balance.
Yeah.
So you can imagine where you get out of balance. So how do you know you're out of balance? If you're experiencing any sort of physical symptoms at all: insomnia, digestive issues, pain, anxiety, anything at all, any symptoms at all, you're out of balance. Okay.
Hmm.
And what it means when you're out of balance, or the word I really like to use is actually alignment, out of alignment with your prakriti.
I love that you say this word because that's literally how I called my podcast with you, which is aligning your your body. So,
Yeah. And you know why I like that, to go on a little bit of a tangent. One of the reasons I like that, we talk about balance a lot in Ayurveda, and I do still use that word quite a bit,
hmm,
but I try to train myself to switch to using the word align, because, you know, we always talk about finding this balance in life, and life is always changing. So if you're constantly looking for balance, are you ever truly going to find it? Or are you always going to be kind of shifting the scales? right? Because
Yeah.
life is always changing. Whereas alignment, aligning with life, to me, connotates that you are finding a way to flow with life's changes, because life is always going to be changing. And so if you're always seeking balance, you may never find that balance, right? But you can find alignment, because if you're seeking a balance, that's something that's always shifting, constantly shifting. Whereas if you're seeking alignment, you're just living your life in a way that you're able to flow with these changes with greater ease. And that's what Ayurveda can be so helpful in.
Yeah, and I really love that the way you explained it. I completely agree 100% because to me, I feel like it's a little bit like when we reach perfection, is
Mhm.
this kind of ideal that we're trying to reach and to strive for, but at the end of the day, it's impossible. And the balance, as you said, life is a continuous flow of different energies, challenges, obstacles, ups and downs, and we can find balance, but not in every single area of our lives at the same time.
Mhm.
So I really love the word alignment, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that we agree on that.
Yeah,
So
and
good.
even this idea of perfection, I mean, what does that mean exactly, right?
Yeah.
And when people find this, and I'm using air quotes quite a bit here, this perfection, are they often really happy? A lot of times you may be happy for a short period of time, but as human beings, we're constantly looking to grow and
For
evolve and
more, yeah.
progress and make progress. And so even when you achieve that sort of whatever you would call that perfection state, at some point you're going to want to keep moving and growing and progressing and evolving.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just nodding my head like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's exactly that. But go ahead, go back to you. Sorry, I cut you on
Oh
that on
yes,
the word,
we
but
did go on a bit of a tangent. So that is very typical when I get talking about this, but I think it's always worthwhile. So we were talking
it
about how
is.
you inherit it. So I was defining those words, prakriti and vikruti. So prakriti is the doshic balance that you were born with, and it's different for everybody. And then vikruti is your current state of balance. And so when there's a difference between those two, that's when you discover imbalances in your body, mind, spirit, in your life, or where you feel out of alignment, or possibly that shows up as physical symptoms or mental, emotional presentations.
Yeah.
So prakriti, how you inherit that is this blew my mind the first time I heard it, and it continues to blow my mind. Your prakriti is actually determined at the time of conception. So it's not,
What?
yes,
Okay, I'm shocked.
yes, it still blows my mind. It blew my mind the first time I heard it. It still blows my mind today. So it's not just something you're born with, it is actually determined at conception, and it is determined by your parents' state of balance at the time of conception.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I get the idea.
Yeah, yeah. And so that becomes your prakriti. And it's different for everyone because these elements occur at different proportions for everybody. And so when we talk about sort of what's your body mind constitution, you can be monodoshic, so primarily vata, primarily pitta, primarily kapha, or you can be dual doshic, where you have relatively equal or relatively high proportions of vata, pitta, of kapha, pitta, of any two of those. Or you
Yeah.
can rarely be tridoshic as well, where you have relatively equal proportions of all three. And that's why, and this is what I absolutely love about Ayurveda and what truly does differentiate it from allopathic practices, because of that, every single person is completely unique. And
Mm.
because of that, the way you approach achieving a state of alignment for each person is completely unique.
And that's where the Ayurvedic experts or practitioners come in.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And it's more important because a lot of people, as they learn about this, get focused on, well, what is my dosha? And I just want to emphasize here, it's more important actually to get an understanding of just what these elements are, what the qualities of them are, and being able to recognize it within yourself and within nature than it is to pinpoint and identify what is that dosha that you were born with. right? It's
Okay.
actually more important to see, well, where am I out of alignment here? What qualities of my activities, of my diet, of my daily lifestyle routine do I need to bring in to restore that alignment?
Hmm. But at the same time, since we're all unique with a specific composition, isn't it super important to know which dosha are predominant within yourself to know how to find kind of air quotes here, like solution to know towards which diet you have to go to, what kind of activities you should increase, and the ones that you should kind of let on the side for a moment at
Yeah,
least?
it's most helpful to know actually what is out of balance or what is out of alignment, because then that's what you need to work on
Yeah.
in terms of the diet that you're going to choose to follow, the activities that you do, the body work practices, the mind body practices that you do to restore that alignment. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, having an understanding of these doshas, of the elements and the qualities. So this is another word, guna, which just means qualities of these elements is definitely important and is very useful, and that is part of that sort of self-awareness and self-recognition that you're able to cultivate as you continue to dive deeper and studying Ayurveda or working with a consultant.
Yeah. And actually, that's why I wanted to do a body episode with you, because to me, Ayurveda is so incredible and I still don't know why it's not that mainstream yet, but that's another tangent. But it's so much about learning, I mean gaining awareness of yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit, and also learning about your body, because I think something that lacks in our Western system, educational system, is the how we are disconnected from our body. It's just like we eat for the sake of eating, but not for finding the right nutrients for your own physical composition. So
Mhm.
I love that is about diving into like learning and awareness about yourself too and how your body function. One thing about the doshas though that I'm wondering about, is it possible for them to evolve or change with time in life, or particular seasons, or I don't know, rough patches in your life or things like
Yeah, so your prakriti doesn't change. Your prakriti stays the same. The only time that your prakriti may slightly change in rare circumstances between that time of conception and birth, if there is a lot of maternal stress or trauma or difficulty, sometimes that can affect the prakriti
okay.
during pregnancy. But your prakriti otherwise doesn't change. So that stays the same, but your Vikruti, so your current state of balance, that is always changing with life,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
with life's
obviously.
seasons. So with the seasons of the year, so fall, winter, spring, summer, that affects your body, mind, constitution
Mm-hmm.
and your state of alignment and balance, as well as with the seasons of your life. So going through career transition, divorce, burnout, the birth of a child, the loss of a loved one, any of these sort of transition pivotal moments in your life, which is the area that I particularly specialize in working with clients and helping them navigate those transition points in their life with greater ease, and bringing in some of these concepts of Ayurveda as a base to help them use these transition points as a catalyst for understanding themselves better
Mm-hmm.
and getting to the other side of it with greater joy and alignment and clarity and peace and happiness ultimately.
Yeah, and also kind of having this supportive toolbox to
Mhm.
go on with the next chapter of their life.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Could you talk, first of all, how does Ayurveda contribute to helping us actually listen to our bodies and its own specificities?
Yeah, so Ayurveda is it's all about learning to listen to your body and your body's signals. It's all about that self-awareness. And I'm gonna yoga and Ayurveda are so interrelated. Many people refer to them as sister sciences. So I'm gonna refer to something that I heard more from yoga, which is just that until you're able to cultivate an awareness on something as I'm going to use the word gross, like not gross as in yuck, but gross as in your physical body, right?
Yeah.
And until you're able to cultivate an awareness of something such as your physical body, it's going to be harder to cultivate awareness on things that are more subtle, such as your mind or your emotions. And that's why actually so many people enter these spaces of mindfulness, of meditation, of Ayurveda through yoga. I actually jokingly call yoga the gateway drug to
But it's true.
meditation and Ayurveda. And it's very true because it
Yeah.
gets you in your body. As you just said, so many of us, we're so disconnected from our body, right?
Yeah.
We're running from one thing to the next thing constantly throughout our day. There's such a focus on achieving and analytical and mental processes that
Yes.
so many of us are living up here. So if you're listening to the audio podcast up here, I'm pointing to my head. So many of us are, living up in our minds, in our heads, and dropping that down into your heart and into your physical body is something that is so powerful to help you ground in a sense of reality, into a sense of acceptance of your past, acceptance of the traumas, the hurts, the pains, as well as the joys, acceptance of your present moment. That's what helps you move into future.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. 100%. It's so important with Ayurveda. Like, how does it make us listen to our body? What specific, I don't know, activities or philosophy that Ayurveda shares that can help us like that?
Yeah, there's so many layers to it. And I think as I've been a student of Ayurveda now, actively studying Ayurveda for 11 years, and there's just so many layers to it. And I think as you allow yourself to dive deeper into those layers, such as right now, starting by listening to this podcast and just exposing yourself to the philosophy and the information and the knowledge and the wisdom of this ancient science, that is one way. Like, you're already doing it just by listening to this episode and continuing to expose yourself to these concepts, to these ideas, and then allowing yourself, giving yourself a chance. And as the interest is there, you automatically naturally start to do this, is that you start to notice these qualities, these doshas, these energies, these elements all around you.
And
then
within you.
and within you,
Yeah.
exactly. And so then you're able to get, it comes with this curiosity, right? Ayurveda is so much about becoming a student of your own life, becoming a student of your own body, your mind, and your spirit. So allowing your natural curiosity to dive deeper into that as you start to, so a few very sort of practical ways that you can start to listen to your body through Ayurveda, and then listen to those signals to use the tools of Ayurveda even further to restore that alignment. So mind-body practices are great for helping you tune into your body. So that is things like yoga, right? Yoga and Ayurveda are directly related, but really any mind-body practice. I have an entire section and module in my group program, Reclaim Your Radiance, specifically on mindful movement. So any mind-body practice, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, dance is a wonderful mind-body.
Yes, I was about to mention dance because dancing brings so much joy too and truly feel into your body.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anything that kind of drops your awareness into your body is a way that you start to cultivate that awareness, and then just start getting curious about it. I'm feeling this thing in my body. I wonder what that means.
Yeah.
Right. I wonder what that might be related to. I wonder what about this season of my life is contributing to that coming up in my body. And so just starting to ask questions and get curious and become a student of your own life. And then the other piece, so mind-body practices is one, in terms of a practical way that Ayurveda can help you to begin to tune into your body. The second is giving yourself space, giving yourself an opportunity to be still with your thoughts. Now, this is a hard one, right?
Yeah.
This is a hard one for many people.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. For many people, sitting with themselves and in silence and not being distracted by, I don't know, their phone
Mhm.
or call or having company can be really, really hard.
It is very hard. And know that that is normal and that is natural. So I'll share a quick story. So I started meditating, formal meditation, like seated in quiet meditation, about 11 years ago. I started it as part of my yoga teacher training. It was a requirement of my teacher training. And we were required to do 15 minutes of meditation daily, quiet meditation on our own daily. And my yoga teacher training program was spread over 8 months. So this was 8 months that we were required daily at home on our own to do 15 minutes meditation. And we had a calendar in our binder that we had to check off each day that we did it. And of course, being the perfectionist that I am, recovering perfectionist, it was very important to me to check off all of those boxes. But let me tell you, most days, especially when I started, I could barely do 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes were a struggle. I would be peeking my, opening up my eyes, looking at my watch, and I'd see that only 2 minutes had passed. And I'd be like, oh my goodness, okay. Let me close my eyes and go at it again.
And it's funny because when you shared your story, it reminded me of the movie Eat, Pray, Love. When she's like in the silent meditation. What was it, like in an ashram in India, and she's trying like to focus and like she feels like she's meditated for, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, and she looks at the clock and it's literally 1 minute.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So that is normal. I was there as well. That is completely normal. So it can be very hard, and that's normal. And that's because the mind, we talk in yoga and Ayurveda about the monkey mind. The mind, it naturally wanders, and that's okay. That's normal. And the point of sitting still, the point of meditation is not to stop that altogether from happening. It's, especially when you're starting, it's to become aware of it, to recognize it, and to create space around it, right? And you start by creating space for it. Start by creating space to sit. And then through different focusing practices. So meditation is all about focusing the mind as well in terms of how to practice the meditation. So very sort of practical tip for you here. Meditation, it's about refocusing your mind. So knowing that the thoughts will come, you're not trying to control them, you're not trying to stop them, but you're refocusing your mind when those thoughts do come onto something else. So often people will refocus it to your breath or to a mantra or affirmation or, a phrase that you just repeat to yourself. And so you're bringing that back. But what this practice does, what both the giving yourself space and stillness meditation does, and what mind-body practices do, is they help cultivate your self-awareness. They help you to start noticing how your body feels. They start to help you notice what is going on in your mind, what emotions are coming up for you. And that awareness is your starting point. It's only from that place of awareness, right? If you're stressed, but you don't know that you're stressed, well, then you can't make any changes to improve that, right? If you don't realize that you're stressed, which is common these days. I bring that up because it's common these days, because stress has become such a badge of honor for so many people. And I think that really needs to change. It's become the norm.
It's like the hustle culture also, which is very prideful. I'm a hustler. No, you're not bringing alignment into your life. That's it. So I agree with that.
That awareness is number one.
Awareness is so important. And how do you incorporate Ayurveda in your pediatric practice as a physician in the Western medicine world? Do you change a few things here and there? Like how in your own consultancy business, Radiant Living, also you incorporate Ayurveda?
Yeah, so in pediatrics, it is kind of here and there. So I currently work in a pediatric urgent care setting. So it's more of an acute care setting for children. And so in that setting, there aren't too many instances where we're addressing kind of this holistic approach of lifestyle, or even having the time to address this holistic approach of lifestyle is very therapeutic, relevant, or helpful, right? But where I have in this setting, in the pediatric urgent care, acute care setting, been able to incorporate some of these practices is specifically when I have children coming in with anxiety. I always make it a point to go through some breathing practices with them. So I lead them through about a 2-minute breathing practice to help them with their anxiety, and as well as just sort of offer some of these relaxation, mind body practices as options for them to start to look into. So that's one area. Another big area in pediatrics, big issue, big diagnosis is constipation. Okay. And so talking about diet and digestion a bit there as well. So those are kind of the main primary areas that I am able to bring some of these concepts into my pediatric practice as well. Now, in terms of radiant living, what I do there more is a sort of life transition and resiliency coaching, from which I draw from which Ayurveda is really the framework for it. I like to think of kind of the whole holistic sort of well-being. Well-being of my clients. Yes. And helping them navigate those, like I mentioned earlier, really helping them navigate specifically those major transition points in life. So whether they are going through empty nests where their children have just left the home for the first time to go to college, or they're going through a divorce or burnout or things of that nature, really helping. What I've done is created my unique method of the Radiant Living method, which is a 6-step method that I've incorporated what I have found in the past 15 years of my own life, personal experiences, as well as my own studies of modern science, Ayurveda, yoga, meditation, mindfulness practices, neuroscience, positive psychology. I have incorporated the most powerful pieces that I've found in all of those and weaved them together into this signature program, which is my group program, Reclaim Your Radiance, my one-on-one program, Restore Your Radiance. And so basically, I mean, I'll go over that briefly with you. And so Ayurveda is the framework for all of that. And when I meet with clients one-on-one, I initially, whether I mention Ayurveda or not, my mind is always thinking in that way. And so I am immediately able to kind of recognize what sort of their season in life that they're going through right now, how that corresponds to the doshas, and what sort of elements in terms of their overall life activities, diet, daily routines are going to be most optimal for them to navigate through that transition point. And so the method that I use, so a couple of frameworks here. So one is I talk about the car. So to go from where you are now to where you want to go. So navigating that transition point, you need a vehicle to get there. And I always propose using the car, which is clarity, acceptance, and rebuilding. And in my method, the clarity portion corresponds to the Vata dosha, the acceptance to the Pitta dosha, and the rebuilding to the Kapha dosha. And then within that, there are 6 steps. Within that framework of the car, there are 6 steps that I address in my programs. One is getting clear. So clarity, like I mentioned before, everything starts with awareness. So the first step that I take my clients on is getting really clear of where you are now, where you want to go, the obstacles that may be standing in your way. And then the second is empowering daily routines. So establishing empowering daily routines, morning routines, and those routines come from Ayurveda. And
we back at it.
They come from Ayurveda. But here's the thing, they are also backed by modern science and research, okay? And then mindful movement. So we talked about needing to get into your body, needing to get into grounded in that sense of your body to have that acceptance of your past, of your present, and that's what's going to help you rebuild for your future. Then we talk about food and digestion, okay, of how you eat being more important than what you eat. And I lead my clients, again, specific to their needs on what they need there. Then we talk about career and relationships, right? But so what I like to emphasize here is we focus on sort of those internal things first, getting clear for yourself, developing those routines for yourself, then moving into your body. Then we move into a little bit more of this external world, right?
Yeah.
And so we talk about career and relationships. And what we talk about there for the most part is boundaries. So
It's
boundaries,
so important.
so important, so important.
Yeah,
And I think not talked about enough, actually,
I
because the
agree.
boundaries is what's going to help you achieve. Everyone's looking for work-life balance, everyone. And then especially with the past, at the time of us recording this, the past year that we've all had with COVID, with virtual learning, working from home, where all those boundaries are just getting completely blended between home life and work life
Yeah.
and parent life. And so boundaries, we spend a good amount of put some attention there to help create that balance that you're looking for in your external world as well. And then the final step is celebration. So often we don't take enough time to celebrate, and that is where you find the true fulfillment and happiness in your life. Those emotions that you experience on a daily basis affect your body. If you are holding on to anger, sadness, grief, fear, right? Those emotions get stuck in your body. And guess what? You have to digest those too, right? I know today we were talking a
Yes,
lot about
indeed.
digestion. But here's the thing, if you don't digest your emotions and your emotional experiences, that also shows up in your body. And there's a whole body of research on this as well. So there's an excellent book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it was written by a medical doctor as well. It's all about how the body holds on to traumatic experiences and emotions and trauma. Yes, that includes, very major significant traumatic events, war veterans, things of that nature. But trauma also refers to micro traumas of daily life. Trauma
Yeah.
also refers to the divorce. It also refers to the career burnout. It also refers to that new health diagnosis that you
There's
had.
also another book talking about that from
Uh-huh.
chiropractor, I think, called Dr. Nelson, which developed this technique called emotion code, where
Okay.
your emotions, good or bad, are trapped in your body at some point when you're going
Mm-hmm.
through them. So you have to let them go also, like helping your body digesting them. Yeah.
Exactly. And so then bringing this out, so processing and digesting those, and then also, which we talked about in some of those earlier modules, but then also bringing that celebration in. So then bringing those feelings of joy, bringing that vibrational energy of joy and love and hope and light into your life.
I actually had this conversation with someone yesterday online. I think it was on Instagram or something like that, about celebrating our little wins too, because most of the time we have this big goal that we want to achieve, but we forget about every single step of the way to get to this goal. And every time we get through one, we can celebrate. We don't have to wait for this big win to actually have this feeling of joy and fulfillment. So thank you
Absolutely.
for underlining that.
Absolutely. That is actually a huge component of my
Yeah.
program and my work with my clients as well, is to practice celebrating those little wins. So with that, actually, I challenge anyone listening. So if you're listening right now, this is my invitation. My invitation to you is to start writing down every evening 3 things that you can feel either proud of yourself for, grateful for, or that you can celebrate of that day. And I'm going to give you this example. Some days, I do this every day, okay? Some days it is things like, reaching out to that person who I was nervous to reach out to, or things like that I feel took a lot of courage, right? Some days it's doing my laundry. Some days
Yeah,
it's
it's
going
true.
to the post office, right? Those are wins. So I just offer those examples because it doesn't have to be something huge all the time. It can be those little, quote unquote, little daily things that you do. Those are wins.
Yeah. So I'm accepting this invitation and I'm going to start tonight.
Okay, good. I'm going
Yeah.
to follow up with you,
Oh,
Melissa.
yeah.
I'm going to
Okay.
follow up on you and see how it's going. And anyone who's listening, feel free to send me a DM a week from when you listen to this. Okay. Instagram or Facebook, you can send me a DM, or you can go to my website and use the contact form there to get in touch with me, to send me an email.
That's good, because I was about to ask you, that was the last question afterwards, where we
Oh,
can
okay.
find you. Where can we find you, Sheetal?
Yeah. So I have a website, sheetalajmani.com. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sheetal Ajmani MD. So for anyone listening, I definitely invite you to send me a message on any of those platforms to let me know if you accepted my invitation to write down your celebrations.
DM us for accountability partners, or to give the result to Sheetal afterwards.
And we'll follow up on that and see how that worked out for you. I also have a free workbook, 6 steps to create your radiant life. And it walks you through sort of those 6 steps that I mentioned earlier, but it walks you through in workbook form. It should take you no more than 30 minutes to do. Give yourself that 30 minutes to work through it and start taking action right away. So I can, include the link. I can give you that link, Melissa, so that we can share that with anyone listening as well.
I will add anyways, like all of your social media in the show notes. And if you send me the link with the free workbook, I'll add it in there. It was a lot to cover in this only one episode, aligning your body with Ayurveda medicine. Good news, it just means that you'll get a part 2 of it before jumping into the mind and the soul. So stay tuned. It will be released very soon. Great. Thank you so much, Sheetal. That was so informative and very extensive. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, bringing your radiance, and everything that you shared with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It has been so much fun to share and chat about Ayurveda with you.
Thank you to have taken the time to listen to me and my guest talking about conscious living. Conscious Matters is a self-produced podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and or donate. 5 stars always preferred. Your support will help to keep on raising the collective consciousness together. Talk to you soon.